My fiancée left me after her sister told her I wasn't her level. Now returns full of regret, begging for forgiveness. Be me, 31, living in Cleveland, Ohio. Can't sleep at 3 a.m. Might as well tell my story. Need to get this off my chest. Grew up in a normal middle-class family here. Dad built his own electrical contracting business. Started with just him and a work van. Now has 18 employees and doing great. Mom was this incredible high school art teacher. Everyone in the neighborhood knew her. Parents weren't rich but taught me good values. Hard work and smart money management were their thing. Maybe that's why I became an architectural engineer. Yeah, not the most exciting job at parties. People's eyes glaze over when I explain what I do. But I genuinely love my work. Helping design buildings that will last generations. Pretty good at it too. Made junior partner at my firm last year. Life was going well. Really well. Back in summer 2019, my buddy Tommy had this huge cookout at his new place in the suburbs. You know the type? Grill going nonstop. Coolers full of local craft beers. Some dude inevitably brings an acoustic guitar. Nobody asked for that. Almost didn't go. Had a big project deadline coming up, but Tommy threatened to physically drag me there. That's when I met Catherine. Holy shit moment. You know when you see someone and everything else just disappears? There she was by the fire pit. This gorgeous brunette with honey-colored eyes, wearing this simple white summer dress, somehow outshining everyone else there. Turns out she worked in publishing. Editor for this up-and-coming publishing house downtown. Smart as hell. Could talk about anything. Had this weird obsession with unsolved mystery documentaries. Found it weirdly charming. We talked until 3 a.m. that night. Just sitting on Tommy's back deck. Everyone else either went home or passed out. Things moved pretty quick after that. Moved in together after a year. We're already spending every night at each other's places anyway. Made financial sense. Once an engineer, always an engineer lol. Proposed last autumn during a trip to Oak Harbor. Did the whole romantic beach sunset thing? She cried. I cried. Random people on the beach started cheering. It was perfect. Our life together was everything I'd ever wanted. Had this amazing routine going. Would get up early to make breakfast. Learned how to make these killer eggs Benedict. Catherine swore they were better than her mom's. Her mom actually agreed. We'd have coffee together. Talk about plans for the day. Head to work. Evenings were for cooking dinner together. Dancing to 90s music. Got me hooked on The Cure. Or we'd binge watch whatever new show we found. Weekends were the absolute best though. Sometimes did these mini road trips. Finding random small towns in Ohio. Trying local restaurants. Checking out weird tourist attractions. Found this incredible bakery in the middle of nowhere. Would drive 2 hours just for their cinnamon rolls. Other weekends we'd just stay home. Got really into growing herbs and vegetables. Started during lockdown. Actually got pretty good at it. Or we'd have friends over for game nights. We were that couple everyone looked at. You know the type. The ones who genuinely enjoy being together, not just posting about it on social media. Had our arguments, sure, but always about stupid stuff, like whose turn it was to clean the bathroom, or whether pineapple belongs on pizza. It absolutely does, by the way. Fight me about it. Had all these plans for the future, too. Already picked out the wedding venue. This beautiful restored barn from the 1800s. Started looking at houses. Found this cute neighborhood near my office. Even talked about kids' names. Though we agreed to wait a few years on that. Catherine had this whole Pinterest board, full of ideas for our dream home. Wanted one of those fancy kitchen islands, and a reading nook with a window seat. I was saving up to make it all happen. Looking back now, maybe things were too perfect. You know what they say? If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Turns out that applies to relationships too. Right when I thought everything was perfect. Right when all the pieces were falling into place. That's when Catherine's sister Lisa decided to pay us a surprise visit. Before I get into the dumpster fire Lisa caused, you need to understand who Lisa is. You know those people who make being an influencer their whole personality? That's Lisa. But multiply that by 1,000. Add a hefty dose of superiority complex. While Catherine and I were building our life in Cleveland, living in our cozy apartment, with our rescue cat Pancakes, yeah, basic name, but he came with it. Lisa was living what she called her best life in Las Vegas. By best life, I mean posting daily Instagram stories. All about her entrepreneur grind, actually just living off their parents' money. No shade to people who get help from parents. But at least be honest about it. Lisa was 34 but acted like she was perpetually 21. Her Instagram bio literally said CEO of Living Life, complete with sparkle emoji. Sold these ridiculously overpriced wellness plans online. $399 for a PDF of basic exercises. Could find the same stuff on YouTube for free. Somehow had like 75,000 followers who ate up everything she posted. Content was all boss babe this, and create your own reality that pure toxic positivity wrapped in a face-tuned package. The thing that really got to me was how different the sisters were. When Lisa wasn't around, Catherine was this down-to-earth, genuinely funny person, could hold real conversations about actual topics, volunteered at the local animal shelter on weekends, knew all our neighbors by name, would bring homemade soup to our elderly neighbor Mr. Thompson. Whenever he wasn't feeling well, just a genuinely good person, you know? But man, whenever Lisa came around, it was like a switch flipped in Catherine's brain. Suddenly, she'd start talking differently, using all these weird influencer phrases, like manifest your dreams and align with your truth. She'd get super self-conscious about everything. Our apartment, her job, even the way she dressed. One time, she literally cried because we didn't have one of those stupid neon signs that say live, laugh, love in our living room. I tried to be understanding at first. Like, I get it. Sibling dynamics can be complicated. Catherine was the youngest of three. Their brother David is cool, though. He's a middle school teacher in Indianapolis, and Lisa had always been the exciting one. While Catherine was getting straight A's in high school, Lisa was sneaking out to parties. When Catherine was working her way up in publishing, Lisa was finding herself in Costa Rica, aka posting bikini pics with inspirational quotes. The real problem started about 6 months before everything went down. Lisa had just broken up with her latest boyfriend, some crypto bro named Blake. I shit you not, that was his actual name. Decided she needed to spread her wisdom to Catherine. Started sending these novel-length text messages about how marriage was a construct designed to limit female power, and how settling down in your 20s was basically giving up on life. At first, Catherine would just laugh it off. She'd show me the messages. We'd joke about how ridiculous they were. But then Lisa started getting more aggressive. She'd send Catherine links to articles about divorce rates and early marriages, or tag her in Instagram posts about living your truth and not settling. It was like this constant drip of poison, you know? Remember this one specific night, about 2 months before everything fell apart. We were having dinner with Lisa. During one of her surprise visits, she'd show up randomly, claiming she was in the area. Even though Las Vegas to Cleveland isn't exactly a casual trip, she spent the entire meal talking about her amazing life. The parties, the guys, the networking events, aka more parties. Then she looked at Catherine with this fake concerned expression and said, "Don't you miss having adventures, sis? Don't you want more than just this?" The way she said this, while gesturing at our apartment, our home that we'd built together, made my blood boil. But Catherine just sat there, pushing her food around her plate, looking like someone had just told her Santa wasn't real. I should have said something then. Should have called Lisa out on her manipulative bullshit. But I didn't want to cause drama or make Catherine uncomfortable. Plus, I honestly didn't think Catherine would ever buy into Lisa's lifestyle. She'd always been the sensible one, you know? We'd literally spent the weekend before, planting our wedding flowers, and laughing about how neither of us wanted anything too Instagram-worthy. God, I was so naive. The worst part? Looking back now, I can see all the warning signs. The way Catherine started spending more time on Instagram, how she'd get quiet after her phone calls with Lisa, the sudden interest in meditation apps, and manifestation journals. It was like watching someone slowly get pulled into a cult. But the cult leader was their own sister. This part is actually pretty hard to write, even months later, but you deserve the full story. So here goes. It was a Tuesday in April. Weather was finally starting to warm up in Cleveland. Remember being stupidly happy about being able to wear just a light jacket to work. The night before, Catherine and I had stayed up late planning our honeymoon. We were thinking about doing this road trip through the mountains in Montana, hitting up all these little towns and national parks. She was excited about finding weird roadside attractions, like the world's largest ball of twine. Just typical dorky couple stuff, you know? That morning started so normal. It hurts to think about now. Got up at 6:30 like always. Let pancakes out of our bedroom. He has this thing about sleeping at our feet. Started making breakfast. It was Eggs Benedict morning, Catherine's favorite. I'd perfected this recipe over the year. Thick-cut sourdough bread, perfect poached eggs, this fancy hollandaise sauce, and this maple-glazed bacon we'd gotten from this small farm in Vermont during our last road trip. Catherine came down wearing this green sweater I'd gotten her for Christmas. She seemed fine. Tired, maybe. But it was Tuesday morning. Who isn't tired? We ate breakfast together, talked about some show we'd started watching the night before. She kissed me goodbye, told me she loved me, and headed out to work. I remember thinking about how lucky I was, how perfect everything was. Funny how life likes to punch you in the gut, right when you're feeling on top of the world, huh? Had a pretty normal day at work, had a couple of client meetings, grabbed lunch with a coworker, sent Catherine a few random memes. She left them on read. Didn't think anything of it at the time. Around 3 p.m. she texted, saying she was heading home early, wasn't feeling great. Offered to pick up soup from that Vietnamese place she likes. She just replied with, "No thanks. Should have known something was up then." Catherine never turns down pho when she's sick. Got home around 6. The apartment felt wrong. You know that feeling? When you walk into a room and can just tell something bad is about to happen. Like the air is too thick or something. Yeah, it was like that. Catherine was sitting on our couch, already halfway through a bottle of wine. She never day drinks. Unless something's seriously wrong, there was this empty look in her eyes I'd never seen before, and she wouldn't look directly at me. Pancakes, who usually runs to greet me at the door, was nowhere to be seen. "We need to talk," she said. My stomach just dropped. Nobody in the history of relationships has ever said, "We need to talk," and followed it up with good news. I sat down across from her, still wearing my work clothes, still holding my laptop bag, like some kind of shield. "What's going on?" I asked. Even though part of me already knew, the signs had been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she started, taking another big sip of wine. "About life. About what I want. About everything." She was using these weird hand gestures while she talked, something she'd picked up from Lisa. And I don't think I can do this anymore. "Do what?" I asked like an idiot, as if I didn't know exactly what she meant. "This, us, the wedding, all of it." She waved her hand around our apartment, at all the little things we'd collected together. The stupid ceramic penguin we'd found at a thrift store, the photos from our trips, the wedding planning binder sitting on the coffee table. I feel like I'm suffocating. Then came the part that really killed me. She started talking about how she'd been talking to Lisa a lot lately, how Lisa had opened her eyes to what she was missing out on, how she needed to find herself before she could settle down. It was like listening to someone read off a script of every basic breakup cliche, but with Lisa's influencer buzzwords mixed in. She kept using phrases like living authentically and aligning with my truth. At one point, she actually said, "I need to understand who Catherine is. Before I can be Catherine plus someone else." I wanted to scream. "You are Catherine. You're the Catherine who loves mystery documentaries and hates cilantro and cries at dog food commercials." But I didn't say any of that. I just sat there, watching 5 years of my life crumble, while Catherine talked about personal growth and spiritual journeys like she was reading off Lisa's Instagram captions. The worst part? She'd already packed a bag while I was at work. While I was thinking about what soup to bring my sick fiancé, she was packing up her life into a suitcase. She was moving in with Lisa temporarily while she figured things out before she left. She took off her engagement ring, the one that had belonged to my grandmother, and just left it on the coffee table, like it was nothing, like it was some piece of costume jewelry she'd gotten tired of. After she left, I just sat there for hours, staring at that ring. Pancakes finally came out from wherever he'd been hiding, curled up in my lap, purring like he knew I needed it. The Eggs Benedict dishes from that morning were still in the sink. Her coffee mug, the one with little foxes on it, that I'd gotten her for our first Christmas together, was still in the dishwasher. You know what's really fucked up? That night, while I was sitting there, trying to figure out how my entire life had just imploded, Catherine was already posting on her Instagram story. Nothing direct, just one of those vague quotes about choosing yourself and starting new chapters. She'd even used one of those sunset filters. Real classy. After Catherine left, I went through all the stages of grief. In like 48 hours, first came denial. I literally sat on our couch until 4 a.m., convinced she'd come back and say it was all a mistake. Then came anger. I may or may not have thrown her stupid live, laugh, love coffee mug against the wall. Sorry, not sorry. Depression hit hard. I called in sick to work for 2 days. Basically just existed on the couch, with pancakes and leftover Chinese food. But then something weird happened. You know how Netflix always asks, "Are you still watching?" After you've been binging shows for too long? Well, when I clicked yes, for like the 100th time, I noticed something. Catherine was still logged into our shared account, and under continue watching, there was some show I'd never heard of, being watched at 2 a.m. at some dude's place. Yeah, let that sink in. My fiancé, who less than a week ago was planning our wedding and honeymoon, was already Netflix and chilling with someone else. And because I'm apparently a glutton for punishment, and maybe because I'd had a few beers, I decided to do some digging. First stop, Instagram. Catherine's main account was pretty much what you'd expect. Lots of inspirational quotes about new beginnings, and finding yourself, some pictures of her and Lisa at various Las Vegas clubs. The usual post-breakup social media performance. But then I remembered something. Catherine had this weird habit of making separate accounts for different things. She had one just for posting about books she'd read, another for her attempts at cooking, so I tried a hunch. You know how when you create a new Instagram account, it suggests people to follow? Well, if you use the same email address for multiple accounts, they're all kind of linked. Took me about 10 minutes of trying combinations of her usual username. But holy shit, guys, I found it. A whole-ass secret Instagram account. And let me tell you, what I found made me realize our entire relationship had been a lie. This account was private, but she'd used the same password she used for everything. Her mom's name plus her birth year. I'd told her a million times to use better passwords. What I found was like watching a car crash in slow motion. Except the car was my relationship, and it had actually been on fire for months, without me noticing. The account was full of direct messages between her and Lisa, going back to January. They'd been planning this whole escape from suburban life thing. Like it was some kind of prison break. Lisa would send her these long messages about how she was so proud of Catherine for finally waking up and choosing freedom. There were screenshots of conversations with this guy Marcus, some finance bro Lisa had introduced her to, at a party back in February. When Catherine was supposedly visiting her parents, the messages between Catherine and Marcus made me physically sick. Nothing explicitly cheating, but lots of what-if conversations and flirty little exchanges. What if we'd met first? What if you weren't engaged? Meanwhile, I'm at home, growing tomatoes in our garden and planning surprise date nights, like an idiot. But here's the real kicker. All those times Catherine was working late or having girls' night with coworkers. In the months before she left, she was actually on video calls with Lisa and her Las Vegas friends, planning her new fabulous life. They had this whole group chat called Catherine's Liberation, where they'd talk about me and our boring life together. You want to know how detailed this planning was? They had a whole spreadsheet, an actual fucking spreadsheet, with tabs for everything, clubs to visit, guys to meet. Yeah, Marcus wasn't the only one. Even a glow-up schedule for Catherine, with appointments for hair extensions, nail maintenance, and something called tooth gems. Had to Google that one. Apparently, it's like jewelry for your teeth. One conversation from March really stuck with me. Catherine had posted a picture of us at my nephew's birthday party. We were both covered in cake because my 5-year-old nephew thought it would be hilarious to start a food fight. We were laughing, happy, just genuinely enjoying life. Lisa commented on it in their private chat. OMG, you look so basic here. Can't wait until you're living your best life with us. Instead of playing house in the suburbs, Catherine's response just a few more months of pretending. A few more months of pretending. Those words kept echoing in my head. While I was planning our future, she was planning her escape. While I was looking at houses in good school districts, because she'd always talked about wanting kids, she was looking at party dresses and making plans with other guys. The worst part? There were pictures of her trying on wedding dresses with her mom right around the same time. She was messaging Marcus about how confused she was about her feelings. Pictures of her crying happy tears in this beautiful white dress, captioned, "Can't wait to marry my best friend." Posted the same day, she was in Marcus's DMs, talking about how she felt trapped in our relationship. I found myself going through old photos of us, trying to spot the moment where it all changed. Was she faking it in that picture from New Year's, where she's looking at me like I'm her whole world? What about our anniversary dinner in March? The weekend trip to the lake in April? When did my fiancée become such a good actress? The more I dug, the more it felt like I was reading about a stranger. This wasn't the Catherine I knew, the girl who cried at ASPCA commercials and spent 3 hours making a get well card for our elderly neighbor. This was some Lisa-influenced pod person who talked about vibes and energy and treated our relationship like it was some kind of temporary pit stop on her way to a better life. For about 3 months after Catherine left, I had to watch their whole Las Vegas adventure unfold. On social media, like some twisted reality show, Catherine and Lisa were living their best life. All designer outfits, rooftop parties, and fancy restaurants. Every post was tagged with something like #living-authentically, #choosing-me, or my personal favorite, #no regrets. Marcus was a constant presence in their posts, though they tried to be subtle about it. You know the type. Those accidental group shots, where he's conveniently next to Catherine, or stories where you can hear his voice in the background. They thought they were being so slick, but it was about as subtle as a drunk elephant in a china shop. Catherine had completely transformed herself into Lisa 2.0. Gone was the girl who used to spend Sundays in her pajamas reading mystery books. Now she was all crop tops and hair extensions, posting daily affirmations, and trying to start her own wellness coaching business, aka selling the same overpriced workout plans as Lisa. She even started talking with that weird influencer vocal fry that Lisa uses. It was like watching someone have a quarter-life crisis in real time. But then, about 3 months into their fabulous new life, something amazing happened. I was scrolling through Instagram one morning, drinking my coffee, and mentally preparing for another day. of pretending to be okay. When I saw it, a post from Lisa that would change everything. There she was, standing on some beach in Santa Monica, not Las Vegas. This detail becomes important, wearing a white bikini and holding up her left hand to show off this massive engagement ring. The caption read, "He asked and my soul said yes. Ready to start forever with my twin flame." Now you might be thinking, okay, so Lisa got engaged. So what? Well, here's where it gets good. Tech entrepreneur Nathan. Yes, that was his actual handle. Was this startup founder from Sacramento, who Lisa had apparently been dating in secret for the past 6 months. And the best part? They were moving to Sacramento, like immediately. The same sister, who had spent months preaching about how marriage was a societal construct and settling down was basic, had been secretly planning her own wedding the entire time she was convincing Catherine to blow up her life. You really can't make this shit up. Catherine found out about it the same way everyone else did, through Instagram. According to my friend Tommy, who's still friends with Catherine's brother David, she had a complete meltdown. She called Lisa screaming about betrayal and hypocrisy, but Lisa just hit her with the same spiritual buzzwords she'd been using on Catherine. I'm just following my truth. And the universe has a plan. But wait, it gets better. Remember Marcus? Mr. Perfect, who was supposedly so much better than boring old me? Well, turns out Marcus had been following his truth with about 3 other girls the whole time he was seeing Catherine. One of them found out about the others and made a whole TikTok exposing him, complete with screenshots and everything. It went semi-viral in their Las Vegas social circle. Catherine tried to play it cool online, posting stuff like everything happens for a reason and trust the journey. But behind the scenes, she was falling apart. Without Lisa there to bankroll their fabulous lifestyle. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, Lisa had been paying for most of their partying. Catherine was struggling. Turns out those wellness coaching plans weren't selling as well as she'd hoped. She had to move out of Lisa's Las Vegas apartment. Since Lisa was selling it, couldn't afford the lifestyle she'd gotten used to, and was basically stranded in a city where she had no real friends, just a bunch of party acquaintances who disappeared real quick when the free drinks dried up, the final cherry on top. One night, probably after a few too many drinks, Catherine posted this long, rambling Instagram story about how some people aren't who they pretend to be, and how true sisters don't abandon each other. She tagged Lisa in it. Lisa's response? She blocked Catherine on everything. Just like that, the whole house of cards came tumbling down. All those inspirational quotes about choosing yourself and living your best life suddenly disappeared from Catherine's feed, replaced by vague posts about healing and learning hard lessons. I watched all of this unfold from the safety of my couch, usually with pancakes on my lap. Was it petty of me to feel satisfaction? Maybe. But after everything they'd put me through, watching karma do its thing felt pretty damn good. I finally started putting myself back together. Started going to the gym again. Turns out anger is a great pre-workout. Got back into my old hobbies. Finally finished restoring that vintage record player I'd been working on, and even started enjoying my own company. Pancakes and I had our routine down. Morning coffee on the balcony. Work. Maybe some video games or a book in the evening. It wasn't exciting by Instagram standards, but it was peaceful. That's when I met Olivia. And no, it wasn't some rom-com moment where we locked eyes across a crowded coffee shop or anything like that. It was actually at this really boring construction law conference in Cincinnati. I was there representing my firm, trying not to fall asleep during a presentation about recent changes in building code regulations, when someone asked this really intelligent question about sustainable architecture guidelines. I turned around to see who asked it, and there was this woman in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit with these smart glasses and this subtle undercut that somehow made her look both professional and badass at the same time. During the break, I worked up the courage to talk to her about her question. Yes, I'm enough of an architecture nerd that I used building codes as a pickup line. Don't judge. Olivia turned out to be this brilliant structural engineer who could talk about sustainable design with the same enthusiasm that most people reserve for their favorite TV shows. But here's the thing, she was also funny as hell. Like actually funny, not Instagram caption funny. She had this dry wit that could make even the most boring building regulations sound entertaining. We ended up ditching the afternoon sessions and spending hours at this little cafe near the conference center, talking about everything from construction techniques to mystery documentaries. Turns out we're both obsessed with the same ones. It was just easy. No pretense. No performance. Just two people genuinely enjoying each other's company. When I got back to Cleveland, we started texting, then video calling, then taking turns making the 2-hour drive between our cities every other weekend. Olivia was different from anyone I'd ever dated. She was ambitious, yeah, but not in that artificial hashtag girlboss way. She worked her ass off because she genuinely loved what she did, not because she was trying to prove anything to anyone. The first time she came to my place, she brought her own coffee beans. She's a total coffee snob and spent the morning teaching me how to use this fancy pour-over method she swears by. We made a complete mess of my kitchen, but it was the most fun I'd had in months. She didn't even ask why I had a cat tree, but no wedding photos on the walls anymore. She just helped me clean up the coffee grounds and suggested we try making eggs Benedict next, complete with homemade hollandaise sauce, because apparently she's a breakfast perfectionist too. That's why when Catherine showed up at my door one rainy night in October, I wasn't even angry anymore, just tired. She looked exactly like you'd expect. Someone who just had their perfect life imploded to look. Mascara running, hair a mess, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "Can we talk?" she asked. Voice shaking. Classic Catherine timing. She'd probably seen my recent Instagram post with Olivia at my cousin's wedding and decided now was the time to have a heart-to-heart. I let her in because, well, I'm not a complete asshole. Pancakes took one look at her and promptly disappeared into the bedroom. Cats really do have the best judgment, don't they? She sat on the couch, the new one I'd bought, to replace the one we'd picked out together, and started crying. What followed was the most predictable conversation ever. How she'd made a huge mistake. How Lisa had manipulated her. How Marcus was a player. Shocking, I know. How she missed our life together. How she'd been doing a lot of thinking and realized what she'd thrown away. The old me would have eaten this up, would have seen it as a sign that everything could go back to normal. But sitting there listening to her talk, all I could think about was how Olivia and I had spent the previous weekend building this ridiculous blanket fort in my living room because it was raining and we were bored. How we'd laid there talking about our future. Real talks about career goals and life plans, not just Instagram-worthy moments. "I think we could try again," Catherine said finally, looking at me with those honey-colored eyes. That used to make my heart skip a beat. I'm different now. I know what I want. That's when I got up, walked to my phone. That was charging on the kitchen counter, and pulled up the photo from my cousin's wedding. It was a candid shot of Olivia and me, laughing at something my drunk uncle had said. Olivia's head was thrown back in genuine laughter, her hand on my chest, while I looked at her like she was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. I showed it to Catherine. "I'm different now too," I said quietly. "And I know what I want." The look on her face, it was like watching someone finally understand that some things can't be fixed. With a carefully crafted apology and an Instagram-worthy reconciliation moment, she started crying again. But this time I didn't feel the need to comfort her. "You should go," I said, not unkindly. "It's getting late, and Olivia's coming over for breakfast tomorrow. She's teaching me how to make croissants from scratch." As Catherine walked to the door, she paused and turned around. "Are you happy?" she asked. Like she couldn't quite believe it was possible to be happy without her. I thought about Olivia, about our stupid coffee experiments and blanket forts, about how she sends me terrible puns in the middle of work days and actually listens when I geek out, about architectural design. "Yeah," I said. "I really am." After she left, I texted Olivia. "You won't believe who just showed up." Her response was perfect. "Do we need to make stress croissants tonight instead of waiting for morning?" "I can be there in 2 hours with emergency butter." That's when I knew for sure. Sometimes the worst things that happen to you end up leading you to the best things in your life.